Chapter 3, Adrian Wallace. Oh good, we have a whole chapter devoted to that guy. I was falling. At least you're in bed. With a choking gasp still caught in my throat, I jolted awake. I stared at the ceiling above me and fell back against my pillows, letting out a long, shaky breath. A dream. Thank goodness. I blinked a few times, trying to clear the fog out of my eyes. My heart felt like it was about ready to leap through my ribcage. I set a hand on my chest, willing it to calm down. The room was dead silent. Faint traces of light were peeping through the curtains. A glance at my clock told me it was about an hour before the alarm. I sat up, rubbing my face. Man, it's that dark? An hour before your alarm's gonna go? Wow. My dream was already fading, the details lost to the ether. But there had been music. In the dream, the melody had been familiar, but now that I was awake, I couldn't place the few refrains I remembered. My mind immediately went back to the thing I'd read about Crimbles the day before. Faint memories of beautiful music. I flopped over in bed, pulling the blankets up to my chin as I glared at my clock. Ugh, why couldn't I wait another hour? My eyes fluttered shut as I tried to entice sleep back. A chattering sound near the window caused them to fly open again. Ugh. Yes? What can I do for you? Don't you ever sleep? I rolled over, and sure enough, the brownie was watching me from the windowsill. Ugh. Go away. I picked up a pillow, ready to launch it that way. But, remembering what happened to Spencer when he made it mad, I thought better of it. Instead, I pulled the pillow over my own face, blocking out the growing light. Please leave. There was a soft thump, and the chattering retreated toward the door. I wasn't sure if it was angry chattering or just chattering. I yanked the pillow off my face and propped myself up on my elbows. And don't steal my brother's keys today either! He keeps blaming me for that, you know. It rolled its eyes my way before it vanished into the hall. Unsure if that was an acknowledgement and too tired to care, I flopped back into my blankets. Then I wrapped myself into a burrito as I resigned myself to an hour-long staring contest with my clock before Mom called me down to breakfast. But at least I didn't wake up outside this time. That was something. Though the idea that the brownie was watching me sleep still sort of creeped me out. In books, girls who know vampires get hot guys watching them sleep. I get creepy old fairies. He's cute! Then again, the thought of waking up to Marc perched on my windowsill was equally unnerving. He's just perched there. That's a hilarious picture for me, actually. Although, if she looks out the window right now and sees an owl staring in, I'm gonna flip this table. Even more so, actually. At least the brownie wouldn't make fun of me for drooling on my pillow. I shut my eyes and tried to snatch a few more minutes of sleep before the alarm. Nora, it's time! I rolled over unhappily. After laying there with my eyes popping open every few minutes to check the time, I had finally dozed off at some point. But I woke up again, feeling like I hadn't slept at all. I snuggled into my blankets briefly before forcing myself out of bed. My phone chimed in the middle of dressing. Just checking in! Everything's okay. Nothing happened as far as I can tell. Aw, Allie, thanks for checking in with our girl.
Glad to hear it. I'll see you in a little while. Have something for you.
Okay, see you then. Miracle of miracles, the bathroom was actually free when I wanted to use it. I went to quickly brush my teeth and wash my face. I looked better than I felt for a change. Still, even if the dark circles had faded, the weird dreams and waking up at night were starting to get to me for sure. I grabbed my book bag, shoved all my things in, and headed out my door. Ah! I nearly fell headlong into the hall when my feet hit something in my doorway. I glared at the pair of boots crumpled in the floor there. I'd forgotten that I put them there the previous night, hoping my sleepwalking self wouldn't be smart enough to step over them. Looks like my waking self isn't smart enough to step over them either. What are you doing? Nothing. Trying to trip over a pair of shoes I left out. I quickly kicked them out of the way and stepped into the hallway, pulling my door shut behind me. Spencer eyed me suspiciously. You left a pair of shoes in your door? Yeah. Stupid me. Can you let me by? Have you seen the keys this morning? No. As usual. That little rat. Was it still homicide if the victim was a fairy? Spencer closed in, eyes narrowed. I backed up against my door. Are you the one taking them? Please explain to me how I can sneak into your room and take the keys without you noticing. While I'm in the shower? You were out of the shower by the time I got up. If you really think I would get up, sneak into your room to get your keys, then hide them, and then go back to bed, you really don't know me very well. There's no way I'd get up early for that. Well, you're not wrong about me not knowing you well. What does that even mean? Well, as enlightening as that answer was, can I go now? Spencer moved out of the way, still eyeing me suspiciously. He didn't say anything else as I started downstairs. Ugh, that stupid brownie. I really needed to figure out how to make it stop harassing him. Mom was nowhere to be found, so I quickly poured myself some coffee and leaned against the counter as Spencer came down in search of the keys. I didn't see the brownie anywhere either, so I assumed it was mid-key hiding caper, or had scurried off to wherever it went when it didn't want to be seen. Spencer vanished into the foyer while I finished draining the coffee. I rinsed my cup and grabbed a bite of egg toast so Mom wouldn't complain, then headed outside to wait for Allie. She pulled up only a few minutes after I left the house. I was feeling a little weird about the whole Spencer thing as I got into her car. He was still being a paranoid jerk, but something seemed a little different about him. Yeah, that was our first real interaction with him since the roots started. I wasn't sure what it was. Maybe he was more guarded, less overtly angry? Yeah.
How was last night?
No frolicking in the woods while asleep, if that's what you mean.
Well, I'm glad to hear that at the very least. You look kind of tired, though.
Yeah, I woke up early. Weird dream. Ever had that feeling of falling that wakes you up suddenly?
Ugh, yeah.
That. An hour before the alarm.
Ouch, brutal.
No kidding. Anyway, you said you had something for me?
Yeah, something for the sleepwalking.
She reached into the side compartment of her door and pulled out a little black velvety pouch. She held it out to me. I reached for it gingerly. It had something glass inside. Pulling open the drawstring, I felt around inside. I lifted a little jar out by the cork in the opening. What's this? I slid my fingers down the jar but hissed softly and immediately dropped it back into the pouch.
Sorry! Are you okay?
Yeah, but what the heck? I looked down at my fingers curiously, trying to rub the sensation away. They weren't red or anything, but that definitely stung.
I didn't think it would burn you through the glass.
It doesn't really hurt that much. I was mostly just startled, but what is that?
St. John's wort, a fairy bane.
Fairy bane? I always thought I was just allergic to it. Alright, read about that fairy bane. Vampires... Squigglies... There we go. There are many items and plants that fairies are less than fond of. Iron, bells, St. John's wort. These things are called fairy banes. Some of them simply keep fairies away like supernatural pest control. Others can physically harm fairies, though, and make an effective way to keep fairies out of your house and away from your loved ones. I had read a bit about that. Certain plants or substances that typically weren't well liked or tolerated by fairies. Some were specific to certain subspecies, but others were sort of universally hated. I frowned slightly. To be honest, I hadn't expected something like that to work on me. Or rather, I hadn't really even considered the possibility of something like that working on me. So, why are you giving me plants that hate me? Just out of curiosity.
Well, I was thinking about your sleepwalking issue, and I couldn't really come up with a good but unobtrusive way to keep you in your room at night. But I have a friend who's a little better at potions than me. She suggested fairy banes. St. John's wort is used to create low-level barriers to keep Fae out, so we figured if you sprinkle some of that in your doorway at night, it might help keep you in.
Okay.
It'll either keep you from leaving, or the moment you try to cross it, the stinging sensation will hopefully wake you up.
Well, that last part sounds pleasant.
It was all the two of us could come up with on short notice.
Stinging sensation is better than waking up in the middle of nowhere at night, so I'm not going to complain.
At least no more than usual.
Are you calling me a complainer?
A little bit, yeah.
You're mean.
Just honest.
Ha ha. So what's the other jar? I peeked into the black pouch and poked at the second jar with my fingertip. That one didn't burn me.
Well, eventually you are going to have to get out of your room, so you need a way to dispel the barrier.
That's true. I can't imagine trying to explain to Mom that I can't go to school due to the fairy bane in my doorway.
Yeah, I can't see that going over well. So anyway, the second jar contains crushed up bluebells and thyme. You can use it to dispel the St. John's wort. I labeled the jars on the bottom to help you keep them straight.
The fact that one burns me and one doesn't is also a good distinguishing feature.
It does help, yeah.
Thanks. For helping with this, I mean.
Of course I'm going to help. There's no way I'm going to let you wander around at night, especially this time of year.
Or any time of year?
Yes. Listen, we need to figure out the sleepwalking and come up with a permanent solution. But for now, we can try this, just as a temporary measure. In the meantime, you may want to focus your efforts a bit more in figuring out what the sleepwalking thing is about.
Well, I have tried, but it's not exactly something that's easy to find. There aren't a lot of accounts of humans with Fae heritage to begin with.
Or Fae with human heritage.
Either one, and so far none of the ones I've found involve sleepwalking.
I understand. Believe me, I know how hard it is to find information.
Isn't there some kind of database or something? I mean, it would be so much faster if I could work on a computer instead of using old books. Don't get me wrong, I love old books. But researching the old-fashioned way is a huge pain.
There actually is a database, but it's not available to the public.
What? Why?
Well, a lot of cryptid communities don't actually like information about their history, strengths, weaknesses out there for just anyone to easily find. Some of them, like the Fae, guard their information pretty zealously. It's hard to find accurate information on them at all, much less to compile it in an easily accessible database.
I'm really surprised fairies understand the concept of database well enough to complain about it.
There are agreements in place preventing the public release of some of this information, so we have access to whatever books the library has managed to compile over the years.
Ugh, what a pain.
You can always talk to Velos about it. He's practically a walking database anyway.
Yeah, he also told me I should ask for help, but I don't know. I don't mind telling you.
He's there to help us, you know.
Yeah, but I don't know him yet. Not as anything more than the grumpy man that lives in a magic library.
He's not grumpy, and he doesn't live in the library.
If you say so.
Just consider it, okay? He's the one who helped me when I first stepped into this world, you know.
Velos is? He's the wizard that helped you when you got into trouble?
That's right. He saved my life. Why so surprised?
I scratched my cheek thoughtfully. To be honest, I guess I have a hard time seeing him as a wizard at all. He just seems so normal.
I keep telling you that we're all just regular people.
I know, but it's hard to think of everyone that way. I mean, he's a wizard. Shouldn't he have a pointy hat or something?
Hey now, that's an offensive stereotype.
But I think you'd look good in a pointy hat.
About as good as you'd look in a little green dress and pom-poms on your shoes.
I don't know. Green looks pretty good on me.
Anyhow, how are things with Spencer?
I don't know. I think he suspects a lot more than he lets on.
Okay, well just be careful and keep an eye on him. To be honest, I'd rather not bring him up to Velos just yet.
Why not?
Well, if Spencer's like you, or even if he just has some kind of sensitivity to the paranormal, I'd really prefer to introduce him to all this sort of delicately.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that you thought to do the same with me. Thanks, Allie, BFF.
Velos doesn't really do delicate. I mean, you're way more reasonable than Spencer, and think of how you handled it.
I don't think I handled it that badly.
You passed out.
Because I ran face first into a headless person, anyone is going to pass out if they see that.
I didn't.
Well, you went and got yourself nearly killed beforehand and were saved by a wizard. You were, already mentally prepared for the weird. You just pulled me in a weird room, told me magic was real, and boom! Headless classmate. Totally not the same thing.
Well, there you go. Probably even more evidence we need to take it easy with Spencer.
If we keep Ewan away from him...
I just think we need a really solid game plan. Springing it on him the way we did to you is not going to work out well for anyone.
Can't argue there.
And if it turns out that Spencer's a normal human, I really just don't want Velos to do anything drastic.
Drastic? Drastic like...
altering his memory?
Oh, good grief. That's a thing? Would he really do that?
If he thought Spencer was a danger to the community? Yeah, he would.
Spencer probably understands better than anyone what happens when you try to tell people about things like this.
Even so, I'd rather not go down that road unless we have to.
Same. He's already got enough issues without some wizard scrambling his brains with magic. Allie gave me a quick hug.
Well, we'll work it out. I'd like to wait until after Samhain. I'm swamped with little odd jobs and errands for the agency. After the holiday, we can really sit down together and come up with a strategy, okay? Can you hold out until then?
It's not that far away. I think it'll be okay.
Good. On that note, I've gotta run.
Allie left me there to go inside. I sat in the parking lot for a few minutes enjoying the cool air. Honestly, if we could bring Spencer into all this, I felt like it would make things easier. If he knew the secret, I wouldn't have to deal with the stress of keeping it from him. Besides, if I could explain that I was looking for answers as to what happened, maybe he'd open up. And if he knew whatever I'd done was not intentional... But I shouldn't get too far ahead of myself. Whatever happened, I doubted it was going to be that easy. The building was quiet, as it usually was at this time. I went straight to my locker to drop some things off. In the morning like this, before people started arriving, the first floor started to feel a bit like the fourth. It was hard to describe why, but it just felt eerie. I suppose that would have been true for any school. Why are empty schools so creepy anyway? I shut my locker, trying to ignore the prickles on the back of my neck. Two hands suddenly closed over my shoulders. Who would greet me that enthusiastically? I'm like the only one I could see doing this is Corbin. I don't know why he would just suddenly start talking to me, but who knows? I guess we'll find out. I mean, the chapter is Adrian, so maybe it's Adrian.
Hello.
I let out a yelp and rounded on the intruder, math book aimed at head level. We are not at that point in our relationship, sir. Please remove thine hands from mine shoulders, thank you.
Whoa!
The book collided with Adrian's outstretched hand, mere inches from his face. That's what you get. Oh my god, I'm so sorry! He was staring at me a little wide-eyed. Probably wasn't expecting me to try to brain him with a textbook just for daring to say hello. I mean, he didn't just say hello, he put both hands on your shoulders from behind. Like, dude, not cool. We stood there staring at each other awkwardly for a beat before I lowered the book sheepishly. Hi.
Hi. You okay? I didn't mean to startle you.
Sorry. I just didn't hear anyone walk up behind me, and then you...
No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have grabbed you like that.
Yeah, you really shouldn't have.
I didn't expect you to go into attack mode.
It was more self-defense, I think.
Defense? I wasn't attacking you. I just touched your shoulders.
I am sorry. I just have been seeing a lot of weird things at school lately. It's put me a little on edge.
Really? You can see them? I mean, I know there are things lurking around.
You can smell them, right?
No, not really. I can sense them more than anything else.
Really? I thought all vampires had some kind of amazing sense of smell. Marc and Elliot can smell them. Adrian couldn't quite hide the way he wrinkled his nose slightly.
Not all vampires have a ridiculous sense of smell. Just the kind that, you know.
What? He made a motion with his fingers like he was drinking? The ones that get drunk? He rolled his eyes.
You know what I'm talking about.
Don't all vampires? You know... I mimicked the drinking motion he just made.
Whoa. You really don't know much about this world, do you?
I haven't had time to read up on vampires. Busy researching other things.
Oh, really? What are you so busy researching?
I already... Excuse me. Choking on... nonsense. Yeah, okay. Ahem! Try that again. I already told you that I'm researching fairies.
Right. I remember. Looking for anything in particular, or just reading about them in general?
I didn't want to tell him. As much as I was telling myself to not be like my brother, I couldn't shake that feeling that I couldn't trust him. You don't say. I didn't know what he wanted or why he was talking to me. It felt a bit too trusting to confess I literally knew nothing about myself. But if he's like Marc, then I won't be able to cover it up anyway. Then again, he had just indicated he wasn't like Marc, so maybe it wouldn't matter. Well, you know, he doesn't, get drunk like a skunk on blood? What do you do, then? You just, like, subsist on soda? Like, what are you doing? Yeah, I'm gonna go with no on that and just say brownies are delicious. You should eat them, but not the kind that's in my house. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. I decided to take the route of misdirection. Just because I didn't know anything about myself, that didn't mean I had to broadcast it to someone I didn't know. Like yesterday when I told him I'm a fae, just like out of the blue. And I definitely wasn't going to mention things like sleepwalking and fairy banes to Adrian. I'm researching tutelary spirits at the moment.
And that is...
Fairies that live in people's houses. We have one living with us. It's called a brownie. It's taken to pranking my brother in the mornings. Today, I'm going to be trying to figure out how to appease it so it stops.
That sounds frustrating. How do you make it mad?
I don't know for sure just yet, but its pranks are driving us both nuts. Last Friday, it put his toothbrush in the toilet. It's not funny. He keeps blaming me.
Come to think of it, I don't think I've met your brother before.
Lucky you.
Huh?
Sorry. We just don't get along.
Oh, really? Now I'm even more curious. Maybe I'll see him in the club sometime.
Ignoring that. That aside, I don't usually see you in the mornings. What are you doing here?
Art club again. We're just working on the art exhibit. Speaking of which, Raina said you might try to enter something.
Oh. Well, I brought a few things, just to show her and see what she thinks. But I don't know if they're good enough.
Can I see them? I've seen your projects in class. You're pretty talented.
I flushed slightly. I don't know about that.
Anyway, wanna come with me? I was going to stop by the drama storage room for some supplies and go up. You can show me your stuff on the way.
Ah, I can't. I really need to do some reading in the club today. Maybe later?
Okay. Don't forget, though.
I won't. I will. He started down toward the theater room. Squint. I watched him go, frowning slightly. Why is he suddenly so interested in me? I sniff a territorial war. Ugh. Vampires. Just what I needed. High school drama with the added bonus of potential blood-sucking and pseudo-cannibalism. I didn't know why Adrian had such a problem with Marc, but I was just going to have to tell him to leave me out of it. Then again, that was probably rude. Plus, there was the whole pseudo-cannibalism thing. I mean, he was a vampire. I didn't want to risk someone deciding to take a bite just because I made them angry. Maybe I should learn some supernatural self-defense. Now you're thinking. Though Marc said they don't like live food, but still, images of vampires going straight for the neck with their fangs came pretty easily to mind. I definitely needed to keep reading up on fairies, but maybe it wouldn't hurt to grab at least one book on vampires to read during my spare time. Even if I would never understand their oh so complex and mysterious vampire society, I could at least get some basic questions answered.